What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another Mental Health Monday. I am excited and terrified for this one. Vulnerability changed my life, but it's a difficult topic. I think it makes certain people uncomfortable for sure, which is totally understandable because there's still certain components of it that make me uncomfortable. Who am I? I am China McCarney. I am the founder of the Athletes Against Anxiety and Depression Foundation and the creator of the Daily Mental Health YouTube channel. And you can find more and more information about AAAD and the stuff that we do there. It's not just for athletes. We provide resources for anyone struggling from a mental health issue, but we have resources there like free therapy. We pay for people if they're struggling. And like I said, it's not just athletes. The name has athletes in it because that's where I come from in my career. Today's video, I want to talk about vulnerability. I want to talk about how it changed my life. You can expect to learn more about my story. You can expect to learn my definition of vulnerability, how it helps me in my daily life still to this day, why it kind of lended itself to be a tool that I could implement. Because all my life, I grew up kind of using self-deprecation as a defense mechanism, humor. I grew up watching the show Friends with my beautiful sister. If you've watched Friends at all, Chandler and Joey and Ross, for the most part, they just, anytime they're uncomfortable, there's weird awkwardness, they will self-deprecate, make a joke about themselves, make fun of themselves, and try to ease the tension in the room.
Oh, no, don't go. I've scared you. I've said too much. I'm hopeless and awkward and desperate for love.
And I still do that to this day. I love humor. I love laughing. That's a tool that I've used. But vulnerability looks a lot different than just self-deprecating about something that I'm not comfortable about myself. And it really goes back to 2015. So 8 years ago, I had my first panic attack in 2009 when I was a junior in college and very high on the professional baseball depth chart or draft chart, excuse me. I was projected to be drafted very high, make a lot of money, and the culmination of this 20-something years of hard work was going to finally pay off. And I was driving up the coast with a new girlfriend at the time, and I had a panic attack. And at the time, I had no experience with mental illness, panic attacks, anything like that. I didn't know. I knew I was a worrier, but I thought I was having a heart attack. So my dad drove over an hour and a half to come get me. Wasn't the best first impression on a new girlfriend. And we went to the ER. They did some tests, told me that it was a panic attack, and I felt incredibly helpless, that it was mental, that I physically felt like my body was betraying me and it was originating in the mind. And I didn't want any scouts to know. This is 2009 in male sports, so the stigma is way worse than what it is today. Didn't feel like I had anywhere to turn, started to abuse alcohol, lived two different ways, one way on the outside, one way on the inside. Stopped playing baseball in 2012, and from 2012 to 2015, I look back at that time, I'm surprised isn't the right word, but it's a mini miracle that I survived that time, to be honest. I went to work, and some days I didn't go to work. Fortunately, my boss and the two owners of the company, Jaeger Sports, that I work for, incredible human beings that have dealt with mental health or are very open about mental health, illness, and battles and stuff like that. And so I would go to work, I would go home, and I would go to sleep, and I would go to work and wash, rinse, repeat, having panic attacks, being inside grocery stores, having to run home and cry because I couldn't check out, not being able to get the Subway sandwich I had started because I started having a panic attack when they started putting cheese on there or something. My dad had always kind of let me know that there were resources. I started very limitedly sharing with him what I was kind of going through, and he could obviously see as a parent from the outside. I lost all my friends because I said no to everything. In 2015, the breaking point, which is in another video on this channel, I had ordered the Habit to go, yum. And it's funny because I live 0.4 miles away from that Habit now, and it wasn't near my house at the time, so it's just kind of weird how it all comes back. But I couldn't physically get out of my car to go pick up the food. The food was ready, it was on the counter. And I physically, for whatever reason, was having such a panic attack, I could not walk the 100 yards it might have been round trip to get my food, and I broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. So I'm already having the shortness of breath, shortness of breath from the panic attack, and then I start sobbing, and so I just can't breathe, and I was just in my car, and I was like, I cannot live like this anymore. My three options that I talk about is either kill myself, drink myself to death, or get help. And luckily I chose the third option. And my dad had sent me some therapists in the areas. I called the therapist, and I want to set this all up so that people don't think I just get on here and talk about this stuff like, oh, I kind of struggle and this and that. I was at the lowest of my life and near suicide, just as blatant as it gets. This isn't, oh, I have some anxiety and some nerves. This is, I can't function and I want to die. And I am depressed and I'm losing all my friends because I can't do social things. And I don't know if I can function. And set up why vulnerability changed my life, and set up a quote that I just heard recently that crystallized everything that this is going to mean in one sentence. So I went to that first therapy session in 2015. I could not tell you one word I said in that session, but I can tell you the way I felt when I walked out of that. It was her home office. I just felt like my lungs had doubled in capacity. I felt as if I had been given permission to feel what I was going through instead of white knuckle fight it, hide it from the world. I got stats about how many people struggle, how many people suffer, and I was like, wow, I'm not alone. And the reason I'm so passionate about therapy and why AAAD's first resource is free therapy is that it immediately doubles your team towards your mental illness journey, mental health journey. Over the course of the next year, I got more and more permission. And I would start telling the people I loved in my life what I had been going through and why my life had kind of gone the way that it did. And all of a sudden, my life improved and my relationships improved and nobody judged me. And the people that did judge me for this stuff, get the fuck out of life. Like, I don't care, because people that judge people for stuff like this either have other issues that they're trying to hide or will be hit with a rude awakening when adversity like this hits them. But it started to feel good to share and not hide it. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up sharing my story on social media in 2016, and it exploded. People reaching out, DMing me about, wow, what bravery, I can't believe you would share this. This is incredible, keep doing it, yada, yada, yada. And so I realized I had a fun responsibility to do something more. And so I looked for organizations to be a part of, but couldn't really find anything exactly the way I wanted it. So I was like, why not try to create something? I had my first panic attack in 2009 and got help in 2015. So I had a 6-year gap from problem to solution. And so one of my biggest mission statements in life now is to shorten that gap for anybody suffering. And I do that by being vulnerable and letting people know that it's okay to not be okay, which has become a taboo line everywhere, which is totally fine because it's a great line. But we are all going to deal with something in life. That's the beauty of life. There's going to be pain, there's going to be uncertainty, there's going to be adversity, there's going to be beauty, there's going to be joy, love, all that great stuff. But it's not going to be like this. There's going to be peaks and valleys of life, and the more adept we can get at dealing with it all, the better it's going to be. And I think one of the biggest tools to dealing with it is honesty, vulnerability. And the way vulnerability changed my life is I shared my story on social media, and then I started sharing that part of me with everybody. If I would go on a date, I would, at some point in that first meeting with that person, just so you know, I suffer from anxiety and panic attacks, and at times I get really anxious in public and I might have to leave, or we might have to go somewhere else or go on a walk. And some people, again, judged it, and it was like, okay, this isn't right. And the friends that are in my life now totally understand. My parents and I's relationship is incredible. The way I'll end this video, and that was a total genuine smile, because it literally, once you start to do it, it just feels like a weight's off your back. But the biggest way vulnerability changed my life, and I heard this sentence I'm about to share on the Modern Wisdom podcast with Chris Williamson. He was interviewing Alex Hormozy, which if you want to change your life in 2 hours, listen to that episode. But Alex shared a quote that he loves, that he asks a lot of people that he works with. Shame only lives in the shadows. A lot of times, the things that we are the most afraid to share and have the most power over us, once we share them and bring them into the light, shame only lives in the shadows. For me, it was anxiety, panic attacks, depression, feeling weak. I brought it out of the shadows and I brought it into the light. And what I thought was this massive boulder that was going to hinder my life forever became a pebble that kind of became a friend I carry on my shoulder every day. It's like, yeah, I deal with this. What do you got? I think the more we practice this, the more comfortable we can get, because sharing my story on social media was terrifying. I drank myself into a stupor for 6 years and still deal with alcoholism to this day because of the decisions I made there. And that's my biggest battle right now is alcohol. It's like anything else you practice. The more you give your brain permission to share the not so fun parts about yourself, the more you realize it's not that scary. And almost more important, but at least as important, you realize which people are in your life for the right reasons. Because the people that either like, yeah, who cares? You have anxiety, man. It's totally cool. I have this or whatever. Those relationships get so much stronger the more you start to share about yourself. And I get it. It's uncomfortable. It's terrifying because it's not that celebrated in society. But I can tell you from firsthand experience that for what I was dealing with and for what I deal with, being genuine, honest, and vulnerable is the recipe for my best mental health. That's just how I have to operate because my shame was living so strongly in the shadows. And once I brought it to light, my life started to change for the better. And 7 years later, it's on a good trajectory and I'm more equipped for when pain, adversity, uncertainty hits. So vulnerability changed my life when I stopped giving so much power to the things I was ashamed of about myself and started just talking about them openly. The right people accepted me. I felt stronger. I felt like a more well-rounded human being. And I didn't have to live a two-faced life where I had to remember the lies I was telling to make people think I was doing okay. Practice vulnerability if you can in certain components of your life, and it'll definitely help you. It's something you have to practice like anything else. As always, be the change you wish to see in your life. The shame only lives in the shadows. Bring it to light. If you like the content, please, if you can, hit the subscribe button for free. Make sure you hit the alert so you don't miss any videos. Be the change you wish to see in your life. That's another Mental Health Monday, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.